Welcome back, folks. My name is Brad, and today I would like to share with you something that I think I found a solution for and is very frustrating for those of us that own land and have tractors and different pieces of equipment where we need to transfer fuel often, especially diesel fuel. So, as most of you probably have seen, this is just a standard fuel tank that you can buy. Yellow is diesel, red is gas, and they have these nozzles on that are really difficult to use. They don't allow the fuel to flow freely, and this one's really cumbersome. You have to press this down to get the fuel to come out. So that's hard enough to do when you're up on a tractor or my excavator trying to pour fuel. But then when you're trying to pour it, it comes out really slow because there's no venting. So all the venting has to come up through here for the air to get in behind the displaced fuel. This is what you can buy out there. You can't buy vented fuel tanks anymore. This is an older style that also was not vented, but at least it didn't have the cumbersome fill cap or the fill nozzle on it. It had one that's fairly easy to use, and this one would actually empty fairly quickly without a vent. But I went ahead and put a vent in it. I think I've figured out through trial and error the best way to install these vents without them leaking. You don't want them to leak fumes because that'll make your garage or wherever you store fuel smell, and you also don't want them to actually leak fuel themselves when they're sloshing around in back of your pickup or wherever you store them. You don't want the actual fuel to run down the side, or in this case, run down the side or around here. I tried to be real careful when I cut out the hole, and if the hole wasn't perfectly round, I tried to make it round with a little X-Acto knife, and I probably had about a 50% pass rate on them not leaking. I was trying to avoid the shavings or the plastic pieces when you drill it from going in the tank, so I was being real careful. Then next I tried just plunging the drill bit in it, and when the tank actually has a little bit of pressure in it, when it's got some fumes, it'll blow those little pieces of plastic back out, and that seemed to give me a cleaner round hole. But even when I was able to do that, some of those fuel tanks leaked. Maybe something around 75% of them didn't leak. So then I tried to seal around it with JB Weld, but JB Weld, you got to mix two parts together. You got to react quickly to it. You got to make sure that this surface is really clean, and so JB Weld will stick to it. And that I've had some success with that. I don't have any that I've done JB Weld with that have leaked, but it's a little bit of a cumbersome process. So I've got a new style that I tried, or a new way of doing it that I tried recently. I've transported fuel using this style, and it has not leaked fumes, nor has it leaked actual physical fuel. I'm fairly confident this way will work, but the process of getting there is the same regardless of the sealant that you use. So let's take a look at the tools that you need to make this happen. These are the tools that you'll need to install these vents. You'll need some sort of drill. I have a DeWalt 1/2-inch brushless drill, so that's the drill we'll be using. Then you need a drill bit, and we'll talk about the size of the drill bit. You need the actual vent plugs, and these are the vent plugs here. JSP Manufacturing. And then I have some Permatex. So this is the black Permatex that is resistant to fuel and oil. So those are the tools that I have, and we'll show you how to use them to install the vents. You can see this gas tank configuration allows you to put the vent up high and not put it where the two split lines of the tanks are welded together. Now that is important because I've found that this split line will actually come apart on tanks whether or not you drill a hole in them. So in this tank over here, you'll see the handle configuration is different. And the way they've designed it is the best place to put the vent would be right there, but that's kind of low. When this thing is full of 5 gallons of fuel, it'll be full to about here. So in this one, I'm actually going to put the vent as high up on that handle as I can. Probably right about here. It seems to be wide enough and flat enough where I can get that vent in. This sealant's pretty messy. It's going to get on your hands. It's going to get on the little vent. So have a rag handy so you can wipe all that off. It wipes off very easily, very quickly. Get these vents from Amazon, and I was buying them in smaller packages, but I found I was going through these vents fairly quickly. So I went ahead and got a pack of 20 here. They're JSP Manufacturing, and this is like version 2.0 or something. It's got a little bit bigger lip, so once you push it through the container, I guess it seals better, but we're still going to use some sealant on it. I was being very cautious with previous tanks about getting the filings inside the tank, but I found that it's better just to go ahead and commit. Go ahead and drill that hole, get it nice and clean, and don't angle your drill, don't make the hole bigger than it has to be. These are 1/2-inch plugs, but you actually buy a drill bit that's 1/64 less. So this is 31/64. So 32/64 would be 1/2 inch. So this is 1/64 less than 1/2 inch, and that allows this plug, 1/2-inch plug, to have a tighter fit. And that's not something I came up with. That's actually the recommendation, or that's actually the way the plug manufacturer or the vent manufacturer tells you to install it. I really don't want to put it on a split line, but if I put it down here, it's going to be almost always under fuel. And while it's going to be sealed, it is not even if you seal the area around the plug itself to the hole, this cap just snaps on and off. You don't want your vent to be under the fuel level. So with fuel level being right about here, I'm going to put the vent up here. Hopefully I won't have issues with this handle separating. It shouldn't separate, but that's one thing that I'm kind of apprehensive about doing. But again, there's no other place on this jug to do it, but it's the most difficult fuel jug that I have to empty, so this one needs a vent for sure. You can see the little spirals of the plastic coming up, and that actually keeps most of the plastic outside of the fuel tank. Just like that, it went through. Again, this is a brand new bit that I bought, and I haven't used it for anything else but putting in these plugs. So I'm going to go ahead and clean out the hole just a hair. It punched through very cleanly. There's a little bit of shred there that I'll pull off. I'll look inside the tank, but I don't think anything went in the tank. Now the shavings all stayed outside the tank. Off camera, I took the tank to the trash can and dumped it upside down, but there was no shavings in the tank. They all came out right there. But there is a little piece of plastic from right there, and I want to get that out. So I'm just going to cut that with a razor. I'm trying not to affect the inside of the circle at all. This is all external, but that's where that sealant will go. So once I have that shaved off, there's a little piece right there as well. Now that's as much as I want to mess with that hole. That drill bit is very sharp here on the edges and gave me a nice clean hole there. So I don't want to mess with that and put any sort of imperfections around that hole, because that's where it needs to seal. Now this process is a little messy. Okay, so I'll take my sealant, I'll just put a little bit around here, and it's going to be messy. There's no way to do it. And if I use the tube that comes with the sealant, then that tube will get clogged after using it once and be useless. I only use a little bit amount of this sealant, so it's not really beneficial to use that little tube or that little straw that comes with it. And again, this is black Permatex sealant that is oil and gas resistant. You got to think about how you want your vent cap to open. I probably want it to open like this. So I'll put the little tang up and put it against that hole and then push. And it does not go in easy. Sometimes I got to push it against something. Because of the location of this in that thick handle, that went in harder than they normally do. They normally push in and then click in fairly quickly, but this one didn't. It's pushed in all the way though. I can see that it's sealed all the way around. Okay, here's the finished product. I wiped off all the extra sealant. It's pretty clean. And then you can see the other style here. Now they're fairly inexpensive, so if this little, I'll pop this open, if this little keeper strap right here breaks off, then you can just cut these out very easily, push them inside the tank, and then they'll come out in one piece and do it over again. Sometimes that will break off. You can see this little tab right here is about to break off, but you can still pry that off. I'm fairly confident this one will not leak. So as I opened up with this video, we do all of our fuel transfers to our tractor, our excavator. things that need diesel and gas, our lawnmower, we do all that with these type of cans. We don't have a 15 or 20 or 50 gallon tank on the property at the farm or here at the house, and this is the only way we can transport fuel. I found these vents to be very beneficial, very helpful to my operation. You know, back in the old days, they were vented, and I understand why we don't want to release those fumes into the atmosphere, into the ozone. I get all that about global warming. At the same time, it doesn't make sense to me to lose a cup of fuel on the ground, get it on my clothes. All of those things are wasteful and harm the environment as well. So I'm going to vent my fuel tanks. There are other methods to do this where you actually screw something in on the back side, and I don't even know how you would get in a fuel tank to do that, but I know there are some with 2 rubber gaskets, and that's probably a more secure way of doing it. But this has worked for me for over a year now. I have had to replace a few. I hate to quote something and be wrong, but I think these were like 10 or 12 bucks for 20. They're not even $1 a piece. So that's all I've got for you today, folks. Hopefully you found this video useful and were able to learn as I did as I went through the process of how to install these vents. I find this to be a very worthwhile product, and I do this to all my fuel tanks. I've probably got about 10 fuel tanks between fuel that I have on hand for hurricanes. We live here in Florida, so we always have non-ethanol fuel during the hurricane season, and diesel fuel for my farm equipment. I have a lot of these tanks, and I've vented them all, and I've been satisfied with the way that they're usable afterwards. So if you enjoyed this video, please click that like button at the bottom. It really helps out our channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share with your friends. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, y'all. I made the 1 hour drive up here to the farm, and it hasn't leaked sloshing around. As you can tell, air can now come in the backside of the fuel. The air can fill the void left by the fuel leaving the tank. So all in all, I'm real happy with this. I've done 2 or 3 with this black RTB or this black Permatex gas and oil resistant sealant, and none of them have leaked so far. So I think this is a fix. If anything happens after the video is published, then I'll do an update to that throughout our regular videos.